You'll never guess what was hidden in this criminal's spare tire. Right about now, we're sure you have heard or watched an episode of Live PD. If you've not yet watched this show, you're missing out on a whole lot of drama. Being a cop seemed boring until this reality series that follows an officer's cam came to television. The officers handle some insane crimes, which are usually just petty crimes, but they usually have some great outbursts. However, one thing is for sure, these cases are downright hilarious and some really cringy to watch. Stick around as we feature some of these insane cases. Number 10. Anything for a chicken sandwich. Some say they love food. Others prove that they love food. This man was caught by an officer after violating some traffic laws only for the officers to find out he was driving without a license. Things got more bizarre when he was requested to produce his car's registration and he had none. He finally admitted that the car belonged to his client who had given him the car to work on for about 3 months at the time, but he used it to run small errands. He proceeded to tell the officer that his client didn't mind that he had the car to do some simple tasks like picking his kids up from school, going grocery shopping, etc. The officer was shocked by this man's unethical behavior, so he decided to call the owner. On the call, he bluntly told the guy that his mechanic was joyriding in his car, adding miles to it, yet giving him false information that the vehicle isn't operational. It took minutes for the shocked owner to arrive at the scene. The mechanic was written a ticket and warned since he had also had previous tickets for not having registration on him. The priceless part was when the officer cracked a joke with the car owner that his mechanic was indeed a BMW specialist, and since he was busted, he'd only take a day to get his job done. I mean, anything for a chicken sandwich. Plus the guy was only trying to feed his family, right? Number 9. Wrecked out. This car chase looked like something out of a James Bond movie. The suspect was in a white Ford Explorer, and not only were officers tracking the car on the ground, but there was also a chopper monitoring its moves too. The car was driven recklessly, sideswiping other cars and bypassing traffic lights. Since the suspect was aware that they were being trailed by officers, their only goal was to drive as fast as possible to keep distance. But this plan hit a wall when they got to an intersection. The white Ford hit other oncoming traffic and overturned. The car started releasing smoke as if it was about to catch fire, but the officers tried to be quick with the rescue operation, at the same time apprehending all the passengers in the car. There were 2 other passengers in the car apart from the driver, and both handcuffed and taken in. The driver was in a more demanding situation since her arm was injured and at the time bleeding. Luckily, the car didn't catch fire while they were inside, otherwise it could have been tragic. She was taken to the hospital by the EMS to get treatment before she faced charges. It was discovered that the driver had a warrant for armed robbery and their car was found with some crystal powder used in the manufacture of controlled substances, adding to the crimes. The fact that she evaded police and broke traffic rules added on to the charges. Her passengers were also taken in as accomplices. What a tragic drama-filled day indeed. Number 8. Odd way to carry. This officer explained that the suspect had been flagged down on numerous occasions for refusing to update his tag, which was due in 2017, or fix his plate lights. At this time, they had multiple infractions on him. When asked for his license and registration, the driver had none on him. His excuse was that the sheriff's department had his documents and never gave him back when he got bonded out of jail. Since the cops were familiar with the suspect as they've stopped him several times and even busted narcotics in his car, they decided to call the K9 unit to check the vehicle. The dog wasn't helpful much since they weren't able to detect any illicit substances. There were 2 BB rifles in the front seat, which wasn't illegal, but the officers mentioned it was a really odd way to carry them since most people have them in the back seat. When the driver was asked about it, he mentioned that sometimes he used to practice on squirrels, but he didn't like it, and the only reason they were there was that he was moving his stuff. They were then pardoned by the police and advised to keep the BB secure at the back seat instead. Number 7. You can run, but you can't hide. Cops were chasing down a Mazda car before finally stopping, and the driver ran off on foot. This particular guy wasn't ready to give in, and the cops chased him around 2 blocks down before resting at a nearby backyard. The officers themselves were burnt down, but were able to capture the suspect. The backpack he threw away while running was recovered, and some marijuana, a scale, and other controlled substances were found. An unregistered weapon was also found, adding to his charges. Since he had a ticketing warrant, it was not clear if the case would be reopened. Number 6. Are you out of your mind? When police officers do a wild chase, usually the driver has a warrant or some illegal substances. For this case, however, this driver took the police on a crazy wild chase, passing through the petrol station, oncoming traffic, and even risked going through the interstate. The car later came to a halt, wrecked of course, after the driver was close to her mother's house. The lady who was driving was handcuffed and taken in by the officer who busted her. The officer was shocked that she put her daughter's life at risk by driving around like that without a car seat and was facing charges due to that. Had she cooperated, she wouldn't be going to jail since it was the passenger that got off that was wanted by the police. The officers chose not to take the child away from her, but instead serve as a warning for the future. Number 5. YouTube star with a side job. A vehicle was stopped for making an improper turn. Little did the driver know that he was about to get uncovered for his side hustle. The driver in question is part of a cast of a famous YouTube show, but with the look of things, YouTube money wasn't enough to pay the bills. The officers noticed a rolled joint on the floor, which the driver denied was his. A small pistol was also found, and that was when they cuffed him and put him in the police car. When they opened the boot, they were shocked to find THC vape pens, which are banned in the state. They also found a bag full of marijuana that gave the police the right to arrest him and take him to jail. Had he not made that wrong turn, maybe things would have been different. Moral of the story? Obey traffic rules to stay out of trouble. Number 4. Girls just want to have fun. The police tracked down a stolen vehicle the whole day before finally tracing it. They were able to link the car to a particular address where the said stolen vehicle was parked. In the car were 2 unarmed women who were told to step out of the vehicle before getting cuffed. The police informed them that they are under arrest for felony theft of a motor vehicle, but the lady who was in the passenger seat claimed it was her car. She insisted that she was on the registration, but the officer was persistent, saying that she made the wrong decision by taking it after hours without authorization. According to the records, the car was taken care of by another owner who had the right over the vehicle. The real story behind it was that she took her car to a body shop around town to get paintwork done, but was unable to pay her bill and filed a mechanic's lien on the vehicle, which made the shop the current owners of the car. She decided she wanted her car back, so she entered their fence compound and stole the car. Number 3. Played too much GTA. More cars are getting stolen by the day, but these officers are probably used to it by now. The officers in this episode were called in to back up another unit for a stolen vehicle recovery and had eyes on the 3 suspects who were on the scene. Upon getting to the scene, they found the victim on site confused and explained to the police that they had spotted his stolen vehicle around the area. The car had been stolen 2 days ago, where he was robbed at gunpoint by a familiar face. When the police were able to track down the stolen vehicle, everyone inside it took off and ran inside the house. Only 2 had been seen running towards the house, while 1 was on foot running and had been spotted nearby. After a short drive, they decided to release the K9 unit to scout for the suspect on the run. When he was warned about the canines, the suspect chose to surrender before getting minced by the ferocious dog. The victim was able to identify the suspect in custody as the one that held him at gunpoint. And with that, it's now time for today's best pick. Today's photo was sent to us by a subscriber, so if you come across a photo online and want to know more details about it, just send it over to us. We might even feature it in a future video. Number 2. Controlled substances in a car tire. The photo shows a clip of an officer holding a spare tire from the bottom of the car. This episode features a man that was flagged down by police, but he made the wrong decision by acting suspiciously. When he was able to stop for some interrogation, the driver had no driver's license and had never been registered one. While he was asked what he was going to do in the area, he explained that he was going to see his girlfriend for a couple of hours since he had his fiancée back home. He was then requested to step out of the car and immediately admitted that he had controlled substances and claimed to have swallowed some. The EMS was called to check his vitals before he could be taken in by the police and was found to be okay. Once the canine was released to the car, it had a hard time tracing the substance, but the officers finally decided to check the spare wheel, since they had received previous cases of the same nature. Just when this guy's day couldn't get any worse, police uncovered more than 5 pounds of said substance, which they linked to a cartel from Mexico. Number 1. The wildest ride. Officers stopped a GMC SUV after noticing the passenger didn't have his seatbelt on, but this didn't seem pleasing to the driver. On getting asked why they never responded to the call when they were flagged down, all they said was, "They're sorry." The driver had no license on him, but was willing to give the officers his registration number. As he starts reading it out, the officer tells him that he had no notepad on him, and as he reached to his pockets, the driver takes off in his SUV, prompting all the officers to chase after him. On checking records on the suspect, there were several warrants open, including possession of controlled substances, and had no bond, which explains why he ran from the police. At some point, this SUV hit an 18-wheeler, but proceeded to speed off away from the police, who were persistent with the chase. The left side of the back bumper was damaged, but the car seemed stable on the road. After a crazy pursuit, the car then skids off the road, hitting the bushes. There was nowhere else to run to, and officers surrounded the suspects. Just as they thought they had captured them, the car reverses and gets back on the road without a left tire. This guy was ready to risk it all as long as he wasn't caught by the cops. The chase was for a short thrill because they had to eventually stop the SUV by nearby bushland. As the passenger got out and surrendered, the driver took off on foot, forcing the officers to embark on another wild chase on foot. He was able to run into his house and lock himself inside the attic. The sheriff's unit arrived and summoned him to surrender. He decided to give in peacefully and was taken out of the house using a ladder. The officers identified the house as his since all his property and documents were attached to the said address.